We are very, very lucky to have not only members of the Senate Ag Committee with us this afternoon, but the Secretary of Agriculture, a man who really needs no introduction as our 32nd Agriculture. Let's go.
Sara, let me use a couple of minutes that you would have used to introduce me to acknowledge the great work that you and Agri-Pulse have done over 20 years. It's really pretty phenomenal. It's a tough business, and you and the team at Agri-Pulse have had some ups and downs with personnel, a lot of tragedy at certain times, difficult times, and heart goes out to all the folks who work with you and congratulate you on 20 great years. And these two characters that are sitting in the front, I want to make sure my security detail is close by. It's an honor to be in their presence. Both Senator Roberts and Secretary Glickman, two folks who understand and appreciate the importance of American agriculture as well as anyone, who serve their country in a variety of capacities and extraordinarily well. And certainly have appreciated the friendship over the years with both of them. And Senator, if you want to come on back and try to help us with the Farm Bill, we'd love to have you, because you got her done a number of times. I thank you for that. All right. So a person in my position often gets asked the question, what keeps you up at night? And I suppose that some people would think that what keeps me up at night now is the notion of farm income that's come down a little bit. And certainly that's a concern, but it's a little bit less of a concern in the context of 3 years of historic growth in farm income, which has created strong liquidity in farm country, both in the ability to both meet short-term and long-term responsibilities and financial requirements. I still believe that we will see a better income than what is projected. Oftentimes, that first projection is oftentimes quite pessimistic, and I'm hopeful that we'll see an uptick in income over the course of the year. I know that people are concerned about exports. We've had record years in exports. They're concerned that imports are now in excess of our exports. There's a reason for that, and I'm not sure that we would necessarily want to substitute what's going on in this country with any other country in terms of our economy. Our economy is a lot stronger than any other developed country in the world. Inflation is down at a lower rate than any place in a developed world. Income and wages are up. Employment at historic levels. Unemployment at historic lows. And so it stands to reason that a strong economy will result in the rest of the world wanting to do business in the U.S. So these are concerns. These are things we work on every single day at USDA, but they're not necessarily the thing that keeps me up at night. Here's what does. The knowledge that on 544,000 occasions over the last 40 years or so, families had had to sit around a coffee table in a living room and basically make the decision that they could no longer farm. We've lost 544,000 farms since 1981. Just to give you a sense of how many farms that is, that's every farm today that exists in North Dakota and South Dakota, added to those in Wisconsin and Minnesota, added to those in Iowa and Illinois, added to those in Nebraska and Colorado, added to those in Oklahoma and Missouri. We've lost 151 million acres of land that was at one point in time in farming that's not being farmed today. That's the entire land mass of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Maryland, and a good part of Virginia. So my question to myself is, am I okay with that as the Secretary of Agriculture? Are we as a country okay with it? And it occurs to me that we shouldn't be okay with it, because at the heart of rural America, and I think at the heart of a very important value system in America, is the family farm. The small and mid-sized producer who has two goals in life. He or she wants to farm and he or she wants to be able to turn on that opportunity to the next generation. Those are the two passions that move people out in the countryside. And so that is why I'm appreciative that this particular seminar and conference has been focused on alternative and additional revenue streams for small and mid-sized producers, for producers of all sizes. Because I think that is what we need to do, and we need to do more of it to be able to ensure that we begin to slow down and ultimately stop the loss of farms and farmland, and so that we can also rebuild and revitalize rural communities as places to live, work, and raise families, and so that we can maintain the value system that gives rise to people willing to serve their country in the military in disproportionate numbers. So we started on a journey several years ago at USDA to begin that process. And many of you may have seen last year when I was here, I did the whiteboard speech. So it seems to me that I should probably come back and basically tell you what we've been up to with reference to the whiteboard speech. We started out by talking about climate-smart agriculture, and I can tell you that we have 136 signed agreements with organizations and entities across all 50 states and 5 territories, impacting and affecting 102 of our major commodities grown and raised in the United States, involving reimbursement and payment for 203 practices which we believe have potential climate benefit. Nearly 100 universities engaged and involved in helping us measure, monitor, and verify and quantify the results. Today we have almost 2,000 producers that have already signed up and are participating as we begin to see work being done in climate-smart agriculture, and nearly 2 million acres of land already enrolled, and we would expect and anticipate over the course of the next 6 months to see those numbers significantly increase. As part of this effort, I mentioned that we're monitoring and measuring and verifying the results. That's important. We're spending and investing $300 million of IRA resources to improve our data so that we can use that improved data to improve our models and tools to equip producers to be able to do a better job of calculating what will work best on their farm, and hopefully then be able to generate better estimates, which in turn can inform ecosystem service markets, which in turn create a new revenue stream. The Climate Smart opportunity is to reduce the cost of climate smart practices. The ecosystem service market opportunity is one that also creates a new source of income for farmers. And in addition to investing in marketing and monitoring and reporting and verifying and measuring results, we're also taking on the responsibility under the bill passed by Congress, the Nature Solutions Act, Climate Nature Solutions Act, to essentially create a better understanding of who's in the best position to verify conservation results and greenhouse gas reduction results, and establish a series of protocols for these ecosystem service markets so that they can operate for the benefit of farmers. So you've got a climate-smart agricultural opportunity with value added where people will pay more for sustainably produced product. You have the opportunity to measure, quantify, and verify the results of those activities, which in turn creates the opportunity for new revenues under ecosystem service markets. We also talked about bio-based product development, the ability to essentially turn everything that is produced on the farm into something more valuable. We've invested in soy oil to thermoplastic rubber for a new pavement process. We've invested in manure to biobinders for asphalt. We're investing in food waste to bio-based plastics. We're investing in expanded opportunities for higher blends of ethanol and biofuels to be more readily available to consumers across 30 to 35 states. 140 projects have been invested in, tune of $91 million. And of course, we continue to work in an interagency effort to expand opportunities in the sustainable aviation fuel area, which is a brand new industry, 36 billion gallons. Agriculture is going to play a pivotal role. Sustainable climate smart agriculture is going to play a pivotal role in furnishing many of those 36 billion gallons. We've made investments in renewable energy, not only to lower costs for farmers, but also to create yet another income opportunity. Over 5,500 REAP grants have already been awarded during the last several years, $1.6 billion of investment, giving farmers the opportunity to embrace solar or wind, geothermal, and a variety of digester opportunities not only for farmers to be able to reduce their own costs, but they'll also be able to significantly band together with excess energy that they can produce on the farm. That in turn will allow their RECs that are in the process of transitioning from fossil fuel-based generation to a more balanced portfolio. We received 56 invitations to review under our PACE program, which is being financed under the Inflation Reduction Act. 198 projects in 40 states looking to be financed to create that opportunity for farmers to basically work together with RECs as they make that conversion. We also have the new ERA program. We're currently reviewing 158 letters of interest. In that program, 857 projects across every state is going to have at least one PACE or New ERA project. This is an opportunity for farmers to begin the process of creating what I would refer to as an energy commodity. We've invested heavily in processing, 35 projects expanding access to new processing capacity, 46 loan guarantees, 46 projects basically expanding efforts in processing. We had 34 re-lending efforts that we've approved, several hundreds of millions of dollars being invested in allowing facilities to expand market opportunity beyond their state border with interstate commerce. All of this is expanding processing opportunities. We just recently announced 42 projects under our MCAP program, which is a very small processing capacity initiative. And we've also invested significantly in local and regional food systems, establishing regional food business centers, investing over $300 million in local agricultural marketing initiatives, establishing resources in partnership with states, nearly $700 million invested in states under our regional food system infrastructure effort. We've had local food purchasing agreements where we're creating the opportunity for local opportunities for schools, for food banks to basically sell to a small and mid-sized producer in the region, in the locality, as opposed to large-scale distributors. We're creating farm-to-school commitments across the board. And finally, we've essentially invested billions of dollars in our procurement efforts as we try to deal with the issue of dealing with food insecurity, encouraging those resources that are going into food banks to come from as much as they can from local and regional food producers. All of this is designed over 1,000 projects, over 1,000 grants, over $20 billion of commitments over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, all designed to create a foundation for farmers, small and mid-sized in particular, not to have just a single way to make money by the sale of a commodity, but essentially selling their waste that can be converted into a bio-based product and produce real jobs, climate-smart agriculture, a value-added proposition, ecosystem service participation, selling excess energy, reducing their fertilizer costs. We also have 42 projects that we recently funded for fertilizer, and a local and regional food system that creates the opportunity for that farmer to get a better deal in the marketplace. Today, farmers get about anywhere from 15 to 22 cents of the food dollar at the grocery store. When they sell locally or regionally, they get 50 to 75 cents. So the point of this is that we have to stop looking at the trees. We got to look at the entire forest. And we have to ask ourselves as a country whether we are satisfied with losing that many farms in a generation or two, or whether there's a better way, a more comprehensive opportunity. And why is this important to the country? And I'll finish with this. It's important because I think there is an ethic that's alive and well in rural communities. And it's an ethic that I think derives from what farmers teach us, which is that something of value, you can't keep taking from it. You have to give something back to it. Farmers understand that. That's why they replenish the land. They know they have to replenish the land. They know they have to reinvest back in the land. Otherwise, it'll stop growing. It'll stop producing. That value system basically penetrates and permeates the entire community. So when young people grow up and they see farmers doing this, they say to themselves, what is it that gives me value? Well, what gives us value in this country is living in this country. I mean, I'm a perfect example of this. I mean, I started out life in an orphanage, and I'm here talking to you as the Secretary of Agriculture not once but twice. This is a great country. Trust me, my parents would think it was one hell of a great country if they knew. But that's the point. It is a great country that gives so much to us. And it starts in those rural communities. That's where the whole thing started, way back when. So what keeps me up at night is whether we're doing enough, whether we're instilling in universities, in agribusiness, in Congress, in USDA, in other sister agencies, in the media that follows all of this, in businesses and industries that profit from farmers. Whether we have an understanding and appreciation of what has taken place over the last 40 years, and whether we as a country can figure out a way to do better. To me, that's what ought to keep all of us up at night. So with that, I'll answer a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have just gone over so many different aspects of your whiteboard speech, lots of numbers, lots of very big numbers. And I know that you're keeping an eye on the small, mid-sized farms. We had a speaker this morning talking about how he came back and they're on a 300-acre farm. It's military service. He did all the things that you're talking about, and now he's doing farm to foam. He's got a beer company. It's a great example of how different people can come back to rural America, but so many of the others that were also on our panels were talking about just how do you go and find all the things you talked about. I mean, you've got a great website at USDA. You've got people in every state, but it seems like there's just a lot of folks that still don't know how to access that information, or maybe don't have the leadership skills to figure out, hey, I can do this. Any thoughts on, what it's going to take to make sure that that information and training and help and dollars all does trickle down?
Sure. Let me sort of divide it between the climate smart stuff and the local and regional food stuff. The climate smart stuff, we have between NRCS and between FSA, Farm Services, we have entered into about 130 to 140 contracts with what we call cooperators. These are organizations and groups that basically represent a broad array of small, mid-sized, beginning farmers, historically underserved farmers, veterans, a wide range of people who might be interested in the farming or in farming, but don't have access to the information, don't know how to get it. And these cooperators are basically working with all of these farmers in their world to basically understand what USDA programs are available and also to guide them through the process. Now, the Climate Smart also has a lead agency, and that lead partner is contracted with USDA, and that's part of their responsibility to make sure that information is getting out to farmers so that they understand and know how they might be able to participate in these efforts. So that's the first thing. The second piece, obviously, as you mentioned, we do have folks that are in each state in rural development, and they're helping to get the message out about REAP. We're also working with the Rural Electric Cooperative Association to make sure that they understand the important role they play in getting the word out about and to their members of these renewable energy opportunities. On the local and regional food system side, that's precisely why we established the food business centers, the regional food business centers. There are 12 of them. They represent the entire country. They have partnerships with a number of other cooperating entities. I think we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 150 cooperators that are working with these centers to basically provide the information on this is how you would establish a local and regional food system, or this is how you would take full advantage of it. So there is a network that's being developed. There, obviously, you mentioned our website. That's also available. And then, of course, there are a number of associations that benefit from all of this, and they too are getting the word out. So, but it's going to take time. It's like planting a crop, right? You just don't get the crop up right away. You got to watch it over time, and I think we're beginning to see that happen.
Thanks. So on another front, you've been such a great champion, not only for the cultures that are emanated from rural America, but the food systems that we've been working on, evolving, the great technology that's been in agriculture. But yet we have naysayers. Some of them left the room, thank goodness. But we have those critics out there who are always seeming to say, well, we've got to dump everything we're currently doing and reinvent. And I've been thinking about this since I've seen the first trailer of Food Inc. 2 that's going to be coming out in a few weeks. I mean, Food Inc. had such a negative impact on so many school systems and really a generation of young people who their only vision of what was happening on farms was from that video. So how do you, or do you, push back on those sorts of messages that are coming out there in popular culture that really want to condemn the current way that American agriculture has evolved?
Well, I think we have to rely on a number of our trusted messengers. I rely to a great extent on FFA, for example. Those young people do a tremendous job as ambassadors in their respective schools and in their respective communities. The same thing is true also with 4-H and with a new program that we're investing in, Manners, which is focused on African-American kids. That's number one. Number two, I think we've expanded the reach of USDA to begin educating people in urban centers. A lot of the misunderstanding about agriculture arises from people that have never had any farming experience or experience with farmers who live in a city, who essentially believe, food comes from a grocery store. Well, now we are establishing urban centers. We're beginning to establish and expand urban gardens and community gardens, and people are beginning to better understand the nature of food production and how sometimes difficult and risky it can be. So there's that avenue. There's an avenue of working with school nutritionist officials in terms of being able to ensure that young people understand where their food comes from and that what they're being fed at schools is one of the most nutritious meals they're likely to get. This is interesting. I was in Las Vegas the other day at an amazing school. There was a teacher who, now get this, she teaches 724 children, K through 5. And her entire curriculum is based on a garden that's in the back of the school, where they basically grow fruits and vegetables, and they basically then sell those fruits and vegetables at 2 farmers markets that they have every year when they bring their parents and friends in, and they sell the fruits and the vegetables these kids are growing, and they have an entire curriculum based on farming, and inside the classroom they have a hydroponic operation. There are hundreds of these kinds of opportunities going on that you don't hear about because nobody's making a movie about them. But I'll tell you something. This teacher, she was just unbelievable. I said, you can't possibly have 724 students. I said, do you give each kid a grade? Yeah, I give each kid a grade. Do you know it? Yeah, well, I know them all. I mean, think about this. 724 people in a classroom, throughout the school year. She's an amazing woman. She's been teaching for 11 years and loves what she's doing. And there are teachers like that all over America. So I think there is pushback, but I think it's also incumbent on all of us to understand how you combat that. And I think one of the ways we're combating it is by saying, wait a minute, farmers are producing and they're involved in climate-smart agriculture. They're concerned about sustainable practices, and they're adopting them. The reaction to the Inflation Reduction Act investment of conservation was phenomenal in terms of farmers' reactions to it. So I think it's important for us to educate folks about, yes, farmers are embracing renewable energy and doing it 5,500 grants already in just the last couple of years through USDA. And yes, they are creating local and regional food systems where there is that connection between farmer and customer so that people get to really know who their farmer is. So I think there's a lot of activity inside all of this, creating additional revenue streams that can help push back on some of the things that might be politicized or movies be created.
We had another panel today focused on exports, and I know you know quite a bit about that, both in public and in nonprofit. And so I know that there's been more discussion lately about the fact that we're importing more than we are exporting. And what can you share about how you think in the next year or two we might be able to turn that around, if at all?
Well, first of all, we do have a stronger economy, which means that the rest of the world is looking, they don't have quite the demand in the rest of the world, so they're looking for market opportunities. They see a strong U.S. economy. We have a strong dollar, which oftentimes makes it a little bit more difficult. So the question is, how much of that do we want to give away? All right, well, most people would like to keep the strong economy, keep the high employment, keep the low unemployment. So that's a challenge. Secondly, let's take a look at what it is that's creating the difference. Some of it is horticulture. Some of it is sugar. And so then you ask your question about the sugar. Do we want to keep food prices down? So having more sugar come in to basically meet the demand of an American public that continues to consume that product, that's an issue. So understanding the dynamics of this, I think, ought to make people a little bit less concerned about it, and plus the fact we've had exports at record levels. Having said that, I think what most people would say is, well, golly, we need free trade agreements. I'll bet you might have had some member of Congress say that. They send me letters about this all the time. They say, Secretary, we need free trade agreements. And I say to them this: have you passed? Did I miss it? Did you pass a fast track authority? Did that pass? Because if it didn't pass, it means that 535 members of the House and the Senate can amend any trade agreement you negotiate. Now, folks, put yourself in that position. Let's say I'm negotiating with you, Dan. And you know that the deal I make with you isn't the final deal because 535 people can amend it. What kind of deal are you going to make with me? So trade promotion authority is a kind of a prerequisite to talking about free trade agreements. Having said that, there are ways that you can reduce barriers, and we are reducing barriers and expanding access. We increased the tariff quota in Japan for beef. We reduced tariffs in Vietnam for a variety of products, and we continually work on that. And the reason we're doing this, and the reason we're focused on the biotech issue in Mexico, and the reason why we continue to push Canada on dairy, is so that we can build a better sense of trust in trade in the United States. I suspect, because this is an ag meeting, that most of the people in this room think trade is great. But if you go out and talk to the folks out on the street in any city or town, they're going to tell you that trade isn't necessarily a good deal for the United States. Because over time, we haven't done the job of selling trade as a benefit to consumers with choice, as a benefit to keeping costs down, as a job creator. People see it as a job killer. And so if you're going to get trade promotion authority, you're going to get free trade agreements through the process, you have to rebuild people's trust in trade. You do that by doing two things. One, you enforce trade agreements that you already have, and you show people you're serious about them, which we're doing. And then two, you look for opportunities to chip away at the barriers that do exist and celebrate it when you can. And I have a list over the last 3 years of nearly $21 billion of ways in which markets were either kept open or we were able to expand markets because of chipping away at a tariff, chipping away at export quota to be able to provide more opportunity for U.S. products. So, I think it's important to have a comprehensive and thoughtful conversation about this. Too often we have a political conversation about it. And that just feeds the mistrust about trade. And what I'm trying to do is basically say, let's take a step back. Let's see why we're in the current circumstance, understand the dynamics of the global economy. Wouldn't want to see the American economy not be the best performing economy in the world, as it is. Wouldn't want to see jobs lost. At the same time, there are things we are doing, and happy to work with Congress when and if they think they can get a trade promotion authority bill through, but I haven't seen anybody propose that.
Well, you're certainly doing your share of market promotion in conjunction with the request there, too.
That's right. And we essentially, when Senator Bozeman and Senator Stabenow asked us to basically tap the CCC, we established the RAP program, which is really focused on regional agricultural promotion. The keys to trade, in addition to knocking those barriers down, are promotions and presence and people. And this RAP resource will allow us to focus on sort of the downstream countries, you know, the top 4, we already spend a lot of time, a lot of resource, a lot of effort. Frankly, I think one of the challenges we also have is with China. We have an interesting conversation going on in this country about China. You know, it's pretty hard for the Chinese, and this was expressed to me when I met with the Chinese ag minister, it's pretty hard for them to understand that they're the #1 ag customer for U.S. products. But that's not how you would see it based on the rhetoric that we see today. And so I think we have to have a very nuanced and very thoughtful conversation about China in this country. Otherwise, I think we can potentially jeopardize the $40 billion of ag products that we sell to them on an annual basis.
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Please show your appreciation for his appearance here today. I think we have one more video, but I know our next speaker is coming up here with her escort.
I take great pride in what I do.
I grew up on my family's farm. It's a way of life. It was our livelihood of our family.
It has its long nights and long days, but there's something in our blood that allows us to want to be involved in agriculture.
They're absolutely key to really everything in terms of where our food comes from.
Our partnership with Frito-Lay is very important.
We take pride in what we do, and they take pride in what we do, and they come out and show it.
Without our farmer partners, we couldn't produce the great potato chips for our consumers.
Frito-Lay, PepsiCo has helped us in a lot of ways.
Partnership allows us to work together to improve sustainability, to improve our farm, to innovate, to incorporate new varieties into our operations.
It's good for the environment, it's good for economics, and good for our customers. And so as we look to the future, we're going to keep raising the bar.
That's what a partnership is.
Frito-Lay supporting farmers, it means the world.